The man who needs nothing is the most dangerous man of all. It sounds poetic, almost exaggerated, but think for a moment. Every empire, every government, every corporation, every social order runs on one single invisible fuel: your need. Need for security, need for belonging, need for status, need for comfort. Strip that away, and the entire machinery trembles. Tonight, I want to tell you the story of a man most of society never sees coming. And if you've ever felt that the world keeps you chasing something just out of reach, money, validation, approval, then stay with me. What we're about to explore will unsettle you. Let me take you back, not to the Renaissance, not to Jung's Zurich, not to Machiavelli's Florence, but to a small nameless city in the early 1900s. There was a man, Elias Ward. He worked at the docks. People called him strange. He owned almost nothing, never bought the latest things, never begged for promotions, never fought over scraps. But here's the unsettling part. He couldn't be bribed, couldn't be blackmailed, couldn't be flattered into obedience. The local bosses didn't know what to do with him. Men like Elias, they don't join your movements. They don't riot in the streets. They don't beg for change. They just walk away from the whole game. Carl Jung would have called Elias a man who had walked through the fire of individuation. Someone who had torn off his persona, that mask society forces us to wear. And Machiavelli would have looked at Elias and whispered, "This man is ungovernable." Here's the truth that unsettles every structure of power. A man who needs nothing cannot be bought, cannot be threatened, cannot be owned. He has no buttons to push, no fears you can exploit. And that, my friend, is why he's dangerous. Because the world you live in, the one you scroll through, vote in, work in, it survives on keeping you just needy enough to comply. Think about it. A man who has faced himself, who has wrestled his shadow, his anger, greed, fear, ambition, and integrated it, he doesn't live for applause or for the next shiny thing. He becomes what Jung called a whole man. And whole men don't dance to someone else's tune. Now, I want you to pause for a moment. If you've ever felt tired of chasing other people's approval, if you've ever wondered why the more you get, the more restless you become, you need to hear this. This is not just philosophy. This is a quiet revolution. A revolution you can start inside yourself tonight. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, because what we're going to uncover about this man who needs nothing will shake the way you see power, control, and even yourself. Elias Ward, he wasn't the first. Men like him have walked the earth before. They leave almost no records because the system doesn't know what to do with them. They slip through history like ghosts. But here's the strange thing. Every spiritual tradition whispers about them. They are the sages, the monks, the desert wanderers. They are the prophets who stand before kings without kneeling. In the Bible, there was a man named John, not the apostle, not the scholar, John the Baptist, a man who wore camel hair, ate locusts and wild honey, and stood at the Jordan River speaking truth to power. Herod feared him, not because John had an army, but because John had nothing to lose. You can't buy a man who doesn't want your gold. You can't threaten exile to a man who lives in the wilderness. In Buddhism, the story repeats itself. The Buddha was born into luxury, but the moment he stepped outside the palace walls and saw sickness, old age, and death, he walked away from all of it. A man who renounces a throne is far more dangerous than one who seizes it. Because the moment you no longer need the crown loses all its power over you. And in Islam, we find the same principle echoed in the life of the Prophet Muhammad. When the Quraysh tribe offered him wealth, leadership, even kingship, if he would just stop preaching, he refused. If they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I would not abandon my mission. A man anchored in something beyond desire cannot be moved by bribes. Jung would have called all of these men individuals who had integrated the shadow. They had confronted the inner hunger that drives most men and dissolved it. Machiavelli, with his sharp eye for power, would have seen something far more dangerous: men who could not be controlled by the usual levers. Think of Machiavelli's world. Princes held power by dangling rewards before their subjects and wielding punishments over their enemies. But what happens when someone doesn't respond to reward and does not fear punishment? You cannot rule such a person. And this is where Elias Ward's story begins to take on a darker tone. In the small city where he lived, employers tried to threaten him, Pay cuts didn't matter to him. They tried to lure him with promotion. He laughed. They tried to smear his name in the newspapers. He didn't care because his self-worth wasn't rooted in their approval. It was unnerving to watch. Because in a society where everyone dances to the music of desire and fear, the man who stands still changes the rhythm of the room. And here's the dangerous secret no one wants to tell you. Society doesn't just rely on your labor, it relies on your need. Advertising feeds it, politics exploits it, social media multiplies it. If you no longer need constant validation, you stop scrolling. If you no longer need status symbols, you stop spending. If you no longer fear being different, you stop obeying. And that is why the man who needs nothing is a threat. His existence is like a glitch in the matrix, and glitches spread. Now, I want you to think carefully. What would happen if you began removing the hooks society has in you? What if your sense of self-worth wasn't tied to likes or promotions or the approval of strangers? Remember what I said. This is not just philosophy. It's a quiet revolution. And if you're still here, if these words are landing somewhere deep inside you, then I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel. Stay with me, because in the next breath, I'm going to take you deeper into the real cost and the real reward of becoming that kind of person. Elias Ward, he didn't leave behind a book. He didn't give speeches. He didn't start a movement. And yet years after his death, people still spoke of him in hushed tones, not because of what he did to the world, but because of what the world could never do to him. This is the part society doesn't want you to hear. Becoming the man who needs nothing will cost you everything you thought you wanted. You will lose the applause. You will lose the comfort of being understood by the crowd. Some will call you arrogant. Others will call you cold. People will misinterpret your freedom as a threat to their own choices. Because it is. The system cannot function without your hunger. It cannot operate without your fear. And when you step out of that cycle, you are no longer a loyal consumer, a predictable voter, or a controllable subject. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But Jung also knew most people will do anything, to avoid facing their own soul. Because the moment you see yourself clearly, you can never again be manipulated by the games of the world. Machiavelli saw the same danger. In The Prince, he warns rulers about those rare individuals who are immune to both bribes and threats. Why? Because you cannot negotiate with a man who does not need what you offer. You cannot threaten what he does not fear. And so the man who needs nothing walks through life like a silent crack in the foundation. His presence alone whispers to others, you don't have to play this game either. But here's the truth you need to hear. This isn't just about Elias Ward. It isn't about John the Baptist or the Buddha or Muhammad. It's about you. Because every mechanism of control, every ad, every algorithm, every promise of safety exists to keep you in the loop of wanting. And the moment you begin to step out even slightly, the grip loosens. The reward, it's not riches, it's not status, it's something far more dangerous. Clarity. Clarity that lets you see the world as it is, not as it's sold to you. Clarity that frees you from the endless race for approval. Clarity that lets you act from wholeness, not from lack. And that clarity is contagious. So here's my question. What would happen if you started today? What would happen if you peeled off the mask, faced your own shadow, and began living from a place that no longer needed their approval, their promises, their threats? I can tell you what would happen. You would become ungovernable. Not in rebellion, not in violence, but in the most dangerous way possible, by being whole. That's why I say again, the man who needs nothing is society's greatest threat, and the world needs more of them. If you felt something in these words, if you know deep down this is the path you were meant to walk, subscribe to the channel. Stay close, because the journey doesn't end here. This is just the first step.